Welcome to Sports from the Couch.
I gotta say, it's the stupidest thing in sports.
With your host, Mike Mercado.
Players cannot stand him. Coaches cannot stand him. Most importantly, the fans can't stand him.
Brought to you by Mercado Airwaves.
I'm gonna say it once, and hopefully I'm wrong, but it's a disaster waiting to happen.
That is so bad, that is absolutely brutal.
Hello, friends, and welcome into the Monday edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. I'm your host, Mike Mercado. I want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day this Monday, September 21st, 2020. Before we get to today's stories, let's go ahead and take care of some housekeeping notes. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike M Media. I'm on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media, and the show is on Twitter. Be interactive with us at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and anywhere else in the universe at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the show at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have a bunch of awesome tiers you can check out, including become a producer and getting our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag, teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network, and play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves. And don't forget, you can follow us and see what we're up to on all the different podcasts on the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves.
Giants trail 17-13. Jones, shotgun. Jones steps up. Jones rifles, knocked away, and it's over.
It wasn't pretty, but the Chicago Bears get a win over the New York Giants 17-13, getting their record to 2-0. And friends, here in the city of Chicago, it is a tale of two Sundays. Last week, the hype that was the White Sox winning a playoff berth, the Alex Mills no-hitter, and the Chicago Bears coming back to win the first game of the season against Detroit. And this game just did not feel good at all. And it just didn't quite feel good in all over the NFL. And we'll get into some of that in just a little bit. But let's talk a little bit about this Bears game as we just came from those highlights of CBS and on YouTube, courtesy of the NFL. Mitch Trubisky, 18 for 28, 190 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. David Montgomery with 16 carries, 82 yards. Cordell Patterson with 7 carries, 25 yards. Tariq Cohen with 5 carries for 12 yards. We have some receiving stats for you guys. Darnell Mooney, who got the big touchdown at the end, 3 for 36 and a touchdown. David Montgomery with a big catch, has 3 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown. The defense making plays when they have to. But the big story nationally from this game is Saquon Barkley, torn ACL, absolutely devastating. One of the good guys in the NFL, one of the bright spots of the NFL. And it was a tough day in the National Football League. A lot of injuries. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And specifically about this Bears team, I don't know what to say. Their offense came out and they made some plays the first 2 quarters of the game. Okay, the first half they played pretty well. There was no reason for this New York Giants team that was falling apart, that lost even Sterling Shepard, amongst everything else. They were still in this game. And it's the big complaint I have from this Bears team. They have a lot of nice pieces. They make plays when they have to defensively. But they have a bad tendency of letting teams go down the field late in games and get in the red zone, having themselves scoring opportunities. Now, how much of that is that the offense just isn't putting points on the board? And when they are, it's either coming from behind or very early in games and you're losing momentum and you're hitting this cap of 21 points? You look around the league, like you need to be putting up 24, 27 points a game if you want to be competitive against some of these teams. And beyond all that, this is the second straight week in which a team has gone on the field, has kept themselves in a game, and they dropped the opportunity to win the game. They got in their own way. What happens when you play a better team? Let's be plain and simple about it. The 2 teams that have 2 wins in the NFC North. What happens if you're playing the Green Bay Packers and this is the scenario that's happening? All of a sudden, now you're going to make the big play? You know, in the NFL, luck has a lot to do with your record. Your record is who you are. That's the old adage, right? You are what your record says you are. They are 2-0. They got lucky. And you look at their schedule. It is what it is. You don't apologize for being 2-0 in the National Football League. You just don't. So if you're the Chicago Bears, especially coming off of last season and all the turmoil that's going on right now during the preseason and not having these games and just the pandemic and everything that's going on with Allen Robinson, yeah, you'll take the win. But it's not the most comfortable of things. You know, it's like eating a cold burger. Yeah, it's still a burger and you'll get full, but it's not as good as a nice one straight from the grill. That's what this win feels like. Yeah, you'll take the W, but it didn't feel as good. And even Coach Matt Nagy brought that up. He brought it up in his interviews like, yeah, you tell your guys it doesn't feel as good because you came from behind and you won. But that's not what you did this week. But you held on and you won the game you were supposed to. Now, I thought they were going to blow this team out. The fact that they only scored 17 points and all those points came in the first half, that's not good. And I know there's a lot of Mitch Trubisky truthers out there who were waving the flag last week. And I'm not here to do a victory lap because they still won the game. But the Bears do not have a Super Bowl quarterback. And I understand Deshaun Watson hasn't looked all that great the first 2 weeks. Not everybody has looked all that great the last few weeks, except for like the Cardinals and the Chiefs. So I'm interested to see moving forward what we're going to see from this Bears team offensively. I did see a lot of plays I liked, a lot of formations I liked, a lot of different schemes that seemed interesting and got guys open like Tariq and Montgomery. But I need more from the quarterback. And I need that defense to not make things so damn interesting at the end of games. And that's hard, and I know it's not cool to really criticize this defense because they are so damn good and they've been so clutch so many times over the last few years. But like that's the difference in the NFL. A stop here, a stop there, all of a sudden you're cruising into a win, opposed to having cardiac arrest for 2 straight weeks. But we'll talk more about this Bears game, this Bears win over the next week, and the fallout from the Saquon Barkley injury for the New York Giants. I mean, that's a team that's just going to struggle. We mentioned it. If you're listening to our confidence picks on Thursdays here on Sports from the Couch, you can see it on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network, and on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. That we are making our confidence picks, and obviously the Giants are one of the teams that are rebuilding. Arizona is one of the teams I like. The Bears are going to be the hardest team to figure out all season because I think they're going to play up to their competition. And even though we've seen them play bad teams, Detroit, I can't figure out. They seem like they're just going to be at 500 team at 8-8, 7-9, something like that, 9-7 maybe. I doubt it, but 6-10 at the worst, I think. So like, I'm not sure where I put the Bears at. Like power ranking wise, they're like probably 20, right? Like 2-0, but it's not the 2-0 you're comfortable with. So let me know your thoughts. What did you think? Is a win, just a win? Or do you think there's more concerns to be had about this Bears team? What do you think about the injuries that the New York Giants suffered? And, of course, everything else that's going around the NFL. I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media. And, of course, the show is on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk. And with that, let's go ahead and head out of Soldier Field and take a look at the rest of the NFL as Week 2 comes to an end tonight on Monday Night Football. But before we get to that, let's take a look at Thursday Night Football, where the Browns beat the Bengals 35-30. We just went over the Bears beating the Giants 17-13. The big national story, Saquon Barkley out with a torn ACL. The Rams beat the Eagles 37-19. The Eagles are in some trouble, guys. I wonder if they believe in their quarterback, and after the Super Bowl win and that deconstruction of that team and coaching staff, they are in some bad times, but the Rams are looking pretty good. Maybe the bounce back is real, and it's what I keep talking about, Super Bowl runner-ups, and we'll get to that in just a little bit. The Falcons lose to the Cowboys, or should I say the Cowboys with a miraculous comeback, 40-39 over the Atlanta Falcons, one of the most unbelievable games you will ever see. And the Cowboys might have just saved their season this early into the NFL 2020 pandemic season. Tom Brady gets his first win over the Panthers as Tampa Bay beat Carolina 31-17. It was doomsday for the San Francisco 49ers, even though they beat the New York Jets 31-13. The biggest story coming out is all the injuries that San Francisco went through in this blowout. We'll get to all of them, but when you're losing a star defensive player, a star running back, and your quarterback, your team has some issues. It's what I've been saying for the last 2 weeks. It's what I've been saying all offseason. The NFL doesn't lie. The Super Bowl runner-up has the toughest road back to the playoffs, and San Francisco early on has got hit with that bug. We'll keep an eye on that story, and we'll let you know about all the major injuries in just a little bit. The Steelers hold on and beat the Broncos 26-21. The Broncos have a huge injury at quarterback. We'll talk about that too. Devastating injury week 2 that was. We have the Titans that beat the Jaguars 33-30. Gardner Minshew is for real, guys. The Titans also picking up right where they left off, winning games they're supposed to. So that'll be interesting to see how the AFC South plays out with Houston struggling and the Titans coming out of the gate pretty well. The Packers beat the Lions 42-21. The Aaron Rodgers revenge tour continues, and the Lions just keep running into buzzsaws. The Bills hold on to beat the Dolphins 31-28, a big game for Josh Allen, and the Bills really trying to keep pace with the Patriots, who they thought they were going to get some breathing room for, but it looks like that is far from over, and we'll talk about that in just a second. The Vikings losing to the Colts 28-11. Philip Rivers getting his first win as the Colts QB. The Vikings talk about quarterback trouble. Oh my, Kirk Cousins and that offense are broken right now. And in this division, in the NFC North, where Green Bay looks like they are just going to go 13-3 with no problem, this Minnesota team is going to be in a lot of trouble. The Washington football team goes to Arizona and meets the new darling of the NFL in Kyler Murray and his Cardinals, and they get the W 30-15. I love this Arizona Cardinals team. I'm riding or dying with them. I think they have the explosive quarterback, the explosive wide receivers. If their defense can keep holding teams to, right around that 17-21 mark, the Cardinals are going to win a lot of games. And that NFC West division is so stacked. It is going to be so fun at the end of the season when everybody's playing against each other. The Ravens beat the Texans 33-16. Lamar Jackson and his Ravens continuing on their hot streak, and it just looks like we're on a collision course between the Baltimore Ravens and the Kansas City Chiefs, and that's going to be so much fun. And again, it's all going to come down to injuries. We saw how devastated some of these teams were by the injury bug in week 2. But that early idea of watching Ravens Chiefs is going to be so much fun. And speaking of the Chiefs, in overtime, they come back and beat the LA Chargers 23-20. Another team that dealt with injuries in the LA Chargers. They had to start their rookie quarterback, who looked pretty decent against the defending Super Bowl champions. But of course, the Chiefs are so damn explosive. And in 4th and 1, in overtime, when you have the ball, I don't know why you punt to Kansas City, especially when they have Patrick Mahomes and all he needs is a field goal. You try to keep the ball off that man's hands, guys. Come on, he's the best player in football. But the Chiefs survive, and they go on to 2-0 with a 23-20 win. And finally, and maybe the game of the night, the game of the week, it was the Seahawks holding strong in Seattle as they beat the New England Patriots 35-30. What have I been telling you guys? People were doubting Cam Newton for some reason. They don't doubt anybody else. Tom Brady for sure is going to win MVPs and Super Bowls in Tampa Bay. But Cam Newton can't do anything great in New England. People are crazy. And he showed it. New England's for real. New England's going to win a lot of games. New England is dangerous. So is Seattle. And that is why that Seattle-New Orleans potential matchup in the NFC is going to be so much fun. And with the NFC West being so damn stacked, these matchups are going to be so hard-fought, and they're going to be so damn good. I'm so excited to see these divisional matchups when they all meet up against each other. And finally, on Monday Night Football, we get to see the Saints and the Raiders. The Raiders opening up their new home, the Death Star, over in Las Vegas. Check out my picks over on our Confidence Thursdays on Sports from the Couch, everywhere you get your favorite podcast, or on youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network. We do a live video. You can see my preface. I picked the Saints to win that one. And with that, let's take a look at, we've been talking about all these games, whether it was a win or a loss, came at a cost because so many injuries hit NFL teams in week 2. And one team hit super hard the San Francisco 49ers losing Jimmy Garoppolo, losing Nick Bosa to an ACL, losing Solomon Thomas, speaking of the Chicago Bears, who was the part of that trade for Mitch Trubisky with a knee injury. They lose Raheem Mostert. So bad stuff. I mean, they lost, I think, like 5 players throughout that entire game and still found the way to win. But they didn't have George Kittle. They've already lost Richard Sherman. They don't have Deebo Samuel. It's what I've always said. The worst thing in sports for a good team is to lose in the Super Bowl. It's the toughest road back. Some other injuries, obviously, we've been talking about here in Chicago. The Giants losing Saquon Barkley to a torn ACL, which has been reported. We talked about Drew Lock was the Broncos quarterback who was taken out with a right shoulder injury against the Steelers. David Montgomery, who did injure his neck, did come back, but that's going to be something we have to look at. We didn't mention that in our Bears review, but that was a scary injury, and they don't have the depth to go through something like that. The Vikings lose a linebacker. Dolphins lose a cornerback. You even have the Packers losing Devontae Adams. We didn't mention that. They put up a bunch of points, but he's suffering a hamstring injury. And we know hamstring injuries, how bad that is for a lot of teams. Cam Akers for the Rams, the rookie running back, has a rib injury. One of the weirder ones, Chargers starting quarterback Tyrod Taylor suffered a pregame chest injury, which then allowed them to put in Justin Herbert, their first-round pick, into the game. So that was a really weird one. A lot of people with their conspiracy theories, whether he was really injured, whether they wanted to play the rookie, I'm not sure, but that's where we're at this point. And one that really hurts your boy personally, Christian McCaffrey, injured his ankle and did not return. That's a messed up one. Hopefully CMC bounces back, but a rough week 2. And it goes back to these guys' careers are so fragile, so finite, and it really brings into the idea of like how much do these injuries, are they preventable when you're getting hit? Like, you got to remember, these guys haven't been hitting the same amount. They didn't have their preseason games. So I don't know about the science or the logistics of it, but when you see something like that, it is super sad to see so many great players go down in 1 week and so many season-ending injuries. So it was an interesting Sunday in the NFL. Lots of ups, lots of downs, and it's going to be something we have to keep our eye on. Let us know, though, what did you think? Did your favorite team win? Did your favorite team lose? How did your fantasy team do? And what do you think about the unfortunate spree of injuries we saw during the Week 2 games in the NFL? I'm on Twitter at Mike M Media, Instagram, Mike Mercado Media, and the show's on Twitter at Couch Sports Talk.
2.1 seconds remaining. Denver a foul to give. Jokic trying to disrupt Rondo. He puts it in. Here's Davis, 4-3 in the win. Oh, it's good! Anthony Davis has won it for the Lakers!
And with that, the LA Lakers take a 2-0 series lead over the Nuggets in the Western Conference Finals as Anthony Davis helps the Lakers beat the Nuggets 105-103. That audio is courtesy of Turner Sports and the NBA on TNT. And then we get ready for Game 4 of the Eastern Conference Finals as the Celtics will take on the Miami Heat. The Heat have a 2-1 series lead. And also, we found out that Giannis Antetokounmpo is now the 2-time NBA MVP. LeBron throwing a little shade on the voters, saying he can't believe he got only 16 first place votes. Giannis saying, don't call me MVP until I win a championship. So much goodness coming from the NBA. I want to see a Lakers Heat finals at this point. I want to see Jimmy buckets. I want to see him shine in the finals and go one-on-one with LeBron. It'd be fascinating to see what happens with the storylines post-season when it comes to the offseason. Anthony Davis, what's he going to do? How does his team continue on next year? And damn, what if LeBron wins another championship? Especially after all this, after all the hype for all the different teams, the Lakers still find a way to win the NBA Finals, but they still got to finish off 2 more games against the Nuggets, and we know the Nuggets aren't an easy out in these playoffs, and the Eastern Conference playoffs have been absolutely a lot of fun, so we'll keep our eyes on all that. We'll also keep our eyes on the White Sox and Cubs getting ready for the playoffs in just about a week. We'll have on friend of the show, Paul Shivari, to talk all that later on next week. That'll do it for us on this edition of Sports from the Couch here on Mercado Airwaves. We want to thank you so much for making us a part of your day. Don't forget, you can follow us all over social media. You can follow me on Twitter at Mike M Media. I'm on Instagram at Mike Mercado Media. And the show is on Twitter. Be interactive with us at Couch Sports Talk. Like, rate, review, and share us wherever you get your favorite podcast at Mercado Airwaves, Apple, Google, Spotify, Stitcher, SoundCloud, and anywhere else in the universe at Mercado Airwaves. Become a producer of the show at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have a bunch of awesome tiers you can check out, including become a producer and getting our interviews ad-free and before anybody else with athletes and celebrities at patreon.com/Mercado Airwaves. We have swag, teespring.com/Mercado Airwaves. Like us on Facebook at Mercado Airwaves, youtube.com/Mercado Airwaves Network, and play video games with us on Twitch, twitch.tv/Mercado Airwaves. And don't forget, you can follow us and see what we're up to on all the different podcasts on the network on Twitter at Mercado Airwaves. Enjoy all the games, take care of yourself, take care of each other. We will see you next time here on Sports from the Couch on the Mercado Airwaves Network. I'm Mike Mercado.